Hi there and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. I'm Bruce Simpson, I'm your reviewer. I'm the guy that tells you what's crap and what's not. And what's coming up? I've got a few things coming up on the channel in the next few weeks. At the moment it's winter, it's freezing damn cold. I've got my thick jacket on here, I've got the heater going down there, but it's still very cold, about 4 degrees the other day outside for most of the day. So yeah, just making the most of what I've got. And coming up with mini quads. Mini quads, I've done quite a bit on quads, mini quads. You've already seen my review of the Blackout mini quad. I love this little thing. As you can see, mine's getting plenty of use. And I've also got the QAV250. You saw that arrived in a nice plastic case with all the gizmos and things, even had my name on it. So can't complain about that. I will be reviewing the QAV250 very soon. And naturally it'll be reviewed on its own, but I'll also compare it to the Blackout because they're very similar, two 250 size mini quads. And a lot of people have said, well, what about these cheap Chinese frames? You can buy a carbon frame on eBay for 40 bucks, 50 bucks. Isn't that better than 150 bucks or whatever for a carbon frame from Luminaire? Oh, I can't say it. Easier name, please, guys. Luminaire or Blackout. Why don't we just spend, 50 bucks? Save a third the price. Isn't that better? Well, tell you what, I went out because I always in search of the truth and I bought Chinese frame. There you go. I bought 3 of them actually because there seem to be 3 different variations and various eBay sellers. So I didn't pay a lot. My most expensive one was under 40 bucks. And this one was 30 bucks, right? 30 bucks for an all carbon mini quad 250 frame. Is it worth it? Well, don't go rushing out and buying them just yet. You'll have to look at the video I've done comparing, what you get when you buy one of the Blackouts and one of the QAV250s with what you get when you buy a Chinese knockoff. And it's quite enlightening. Stay tuned for that. Very important video to watch. So there'll be more mini quad stuff coming up, of course, the QAV250. And also I'm looking at motors. Now that the supply of motors is freeing up a bit, you've got a wide range. You can buy motors for $8 or $9, but you can buy Tiger motors for 40 bucks. So is it really worth spending 5 times as much for a motor for your mini quad? I'll tell you. Well, I'll try and tell you. I'll compare the different motors, look at the quality, look at the performance, look at the pluses and minuses, because it's not an easy question to answer. You've really got to look at all the different small features that come in to differentiate one motor from another. And ESCs, are all ESCs the same? I know some people have had a few problems with synchronizing or motors losing sync on mini quads. When you're running high kV motors, sometimes they just lose sync and your quad will flip and fall out of the sky. I had that problem myself a little while ago. So do all ESCs work with all motors? No, they most certainly don't. You really need to be paying attention when you order your ESCs and your motors. Another reason why it's really helpful, and if you're buying from all in one source, like you go to get FPV and you buy the Luminaire QAV250 with all the bits and pieces that come with it, well, you're getting a matched package. If you go to Blackout and you buy the Blackout mini quad with the Blackout branded motors and so forth and the ESCs, again, you're getting a package that's all designed to work together. Is that the best solution though? Can you really build a super budget mini quad with the same specs and performance as the really expensive ones? Well, we're going to look at that, going to investigate that. Also coming up, I've done the video on multimeters, should be going up in a few days' time, showing you, why you need a multimeter, what you can do with it, how to use it, how to choose the best multimeter, because it's pretty important these days with all the emphasis on electric. And I've had done a little project where I've taken a cheap foam toy and I've made it into an RC model. And you probably recognize the model, it's out of the film Planes. Will it fly? You'll just have to watch and find out. And speaking of flying, it seems that Model Flying New Zealand don't give up. They're trying to queer, or some of the members from Model Flying New Zealand trying to queer the pitch at the high school where I've been doing my flying and some of my flight tests. I'm too dangerous apparently, I can't be trusted, I shouldn't be allowed to fly at the school. What the hell business is it of theirs? Except that they just have this ongoing desire to keep me out of the air. Never mind, that's for another channel at another time. Now you will remember that I bought these cheapy APC knockoff props and I did a couple of videos on them because the spaces were crap and didn't fit. Well, as you can see, I fitted them to my Cinetank. And I've got to say that despite my misgivings, they actually perform really well. With a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, I'm getting over 10 minutes flight times out of this, which isn't too bad at all. So look for a follow-up on the Cinetank review. Now I've got some flight time on it. I'm going to give you a bit more of my opinions and some more footage so you can see how this machine flies and whether it's worth the money. And I think, I'm quite impressed so far. So we'll see. It's obviously much bigger than the 250, and there are times when a big quad is quite handy. When the wind's blowing, when it's gusty and turbulent, these things are a little more solid in the air. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks, providing I can find somewhere to fly. Now the other project I've been working on is this. It's the 9XR Pro. And what have I been doing with it? Well, I've been putting a FrSky telemetry board in here and setting it up so that it uses the internal antenna. We've all seen these internal antennas that don't get used on the 9X radios. I've hooked it up so it uses the internal antenna and wired it up so the telemetry is wired directly in, so there'll be no module in the back, there'll be no unsightly bits and pieces. It's all inside, and I'll show you how I've done that, and I'll set it up and basically we'll fly it, we'll see if the telemetry works properly. So if you're thinking of buying a Pro, if you want a Pro because you don't want a Tyrannus or you can't afford a Tyrannus, then I'll show you how to make your Pro work with internal telemetry. Now there are still a few downsides to the Pro. As you know, if you've got a Tyrannus, you can switch between the three modes. That's the old non-telemetry mode, the telemetry mode, and then the D16 mode, which uses the new X8R receivers and so forth. So you can automatically switch between those modes based on the setup for the model. With this, you've got to flick switches. Can't get around it. There's no software control of the telemetry module, so it's another reason why you might want to look at a Tyrannus instead of one of these. But if you're going to use one of these, I'm going to show you how to make the most use of it and how to turn it into a nicely self-contained radio like it should have been right from the start. And finally, of course, the follow-up on this, the Hobby King 250 little mini quad, they say suitable for FPV and so forth. I've already showed you these motors are crap, the stock motors are crap. A 2mm shaft that's over hardened, ping, they break like glass. No good at all. But I'm going to set this up. Now, one of the things is that, you know, if you compare, you know, that to that, it's just so much easier to fiddle your gear into this, even the Chinese one. So I'm not that impressed with these actually. They're not tough unless you use a different motor, and the X is hard to see. If you're not flying FPV, they're really hard to orient properly. I put some LEDs on the one that Barry was flying, but Barry hasn't had much flight time because he's broken, I think, 2 or 3 motors already. And yeah, for $99 or whatever it is, you know, I can't really give it a thumbs up because it just doesn't live up to expectations, I'm afraid. And finally, some people have said, hey, these little 200 milliwatt FPV transmitters you reviewed and said they were okay, they seem to have some lines on them, a bit of noise coming from the power supply. And I've tried a couple, and it's been a bit hit and miss actually. I've got to say, the one that I originally reviewed works really well. I've got another one and it does have some lines and noise on it. And then I got a third one and that seems to be fine too. So quality control? I don't know. The design is such that there's not a lot of filtering on the switch mode power supply. I'm going to look at these and see whether there's a way. I know some people have put extra chokes in there and so forth. Have a look and see just what is causing the fact that some of them are noisy and some of them aren't. It's got to be something simple. See if we can find it, and maybe we'll do a DIY on making sure that if you buy one of these, it's not one of the noisy ones, or if it is, fixing it up. So there we go. That's news from the bench from hell for another not so weekly week. Unfortunately, no progress on the sense and avoid system. Testing is banned. It's banned. It's too dangerous. Too many babies will be killed if I test my sense and avoid system. Never mind. So if you've got questions, if you've got comments or anything like that, put them on the bottom of the video. I will do my best to answer them, address them, or acknowledge them. But sometimes I get so many, it's really hard. Thank you for watching. I will see you again very soon. But now I've just got to get back to the bench.